Placed at a time when the world is grappling with two challenges, the volatility of crude oil prices as well as that of currencies of emerging markets. These have resulted in higher retail prices of petrol in South Africa. Analysts have heavily criticized the move by government to intervene, asking where the money will come from. It's predicted that it's about 500 million rand that government is absorbing, and questions are asked about what they will do next month. Our reporter Liabo Setho is in Cape Town to cover the Africa Oil Conference. Good afternoon, Liabo. The minister is certain that government intervention will not impact on the already constrained fiscus. Did he detail where exactly this money will come from?
Good afternoon, Zinga. Well, as we may already know that these are questions circling around a lot of minds, a lot of analysts' minds, a lot of economists' minds, as well as a lot of consumers' minds about where the money is going to come from. Of course, we cannot look away from the part that this is, of course, a temporary relief for the consumers. But the minister was very quick to point out to the delegates here at the Oil in Africa, Oil and Power Conference in Cape Town that the fiscus will absolutely be not constrained. He said that there is a space in the legislation that allows him to file for this. I did speak to him earlier on and listen to what he had to say.
It's very simple. This is part of the system in South Africa through the Central Energy Fund, and as a Minister of Energy, I have the power within the rules to ensure that when a necessity arises like it is right now, in order to relieve our motorists, especially consumers, in this dire economic climate. We know yesterday that we are now in technical recession, so this is a much needed relief for our people. So there is this self-adjusting slate mechanism that is provided for in the rules that we've utilized because there is a surplus. That's what we're going to be using. There will be no impact whatsoever on the national fiscals and the budget of government.
Liabo, analysts predict a fuel price increase of nearly R1.50 next month. Does the minister talk about cushioning motorists and consumers again if that does arise?
Zinga, he was very hesitant to actually give that assurance that the same will be done for the month of October. He did stress that this is a once-off. Once again, take a listen to his answer.
Well, we've indicated this is a once-off relief. These are external factors that have impacted on this issue, the issue of the crude oil price, as well as the deterioration of the rand-dollar exchange. So those factors are beyond our control. But where there is a necessity within our reasonable means, and this is the case now, we've just given this relief for this month of September.
Now, Liabo, we saw yesterday Q2 reporting negative economic growth, putting us into a recession. What did the minister say about the impact on the energy sector?
Of course, I did ask him about that in Zinga, and he also is quite concerned, of course, about the GDP numbers that came out yesterday, because they're now starting to fuel the issue of a downgrade for the country, which would mean that the energy sector would find it much more expensive as well to attract investment. But he did say that this is now a time for authorities to push policy and to remove obstacles that constrain economic growth. He says that policy certainty in Zinga is essential, and that through publishing of the IRP, which was done, of course, sometime last week, they intend to remove the impediments to investment in the new electricity, which means that they want to tighten the noose, particularly on the issue of policy certainty, so that when it is mixed with low economic growth, you don't find an issue of uncertain policy and low growth environment.
Liabo, we know that there are ministers from across the continent gathering to speak about oil. What other interesting conversations will there be at that conference?
Just this afternoon, Zinga, there'll be an issue about the gas economy. Gas has been a buzzword within the energy sector lately. It's seen as much more efficient, much more costly, far less costly rather, to use gas as opposed to coal and all the other energy mixes that Africa has seen. There'll also be talk about the privatization in the energy sector. I remember that in South Africa, we also have a talk about whether we should partly privatize entities such as Eskom in order to help with their liquidity challenges. This is not only a talk that we are having in South Africa, but in other parts of the continent. They'll also talk about renewables in the energy mix. We'll remember that our IRP draft that is currently out for comment puts the renewables in the energy mix quite high up in the top, while reducing the need for nuclear, which was dominating the energy space and the energy circles for a very, very long time. So we will be keeping tabs on what other African countries find important with regards to power and energy in their countries. It's back to you in Johannesburg, Nzinga.
Thanks, Liabo, keeping us updated on that Africa Oil and Power Conference that's taking place in Cape Town. She will continue bringing us news about what's taking place there. Now, expropriation of land in South Africa is critical.